Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today, we have got another Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 Prestige class, or not Prestige class, class description for you. And today, coming at you from the Complete Divine, we have got Shugenja. Now, the Shugenja is an interesting class, so we're going to be talking about what is the Shugenja. We're going to be talking about how you would go about role-playing a Shugenja. Then we're going to talk about, what the Shugenja gets mechanically. Then we're going to talk about how good the Shugenja is and how you might use it in a build. So let's get started. So the Shugenja. Basically, they are a divine caster. They are an Oriental caster. They do come from the Oriental Adventures book. They are based off of, at least somewhat loosely based off of real world Japan, or Japanese culture at the very least. And I do say loosely, so it's not like some strict adherence thing, but that's where they come from. So yeah, their culture is going to be a little different than your typical Dungeons and Dragons class, which is very much Western based, and pretty much set in Europe. Is pretty much where the vast majority of D&D stuff comes from, is various parts of Europe, typically Northern Europe, I think, but just really anywhere. Yeah. So this one comes from Japan, very, very different. And yeah, they are a divine class. They are a spontaneous caster. They have a very strange casting mechanism, or not so much mechanism, but their spells known is very unusual. The way that's chosen, and we will definitely get into that. So yeah, let's talk about let's talk about the more how you would play them. So yeah. Whew. So let's see. Their alignment can be really anything, although they would have a tendency towards law more so than anything, but they can be anything. Religion, they can be a lot of things. I think they are a magical class, so things like what was it saying? Bokob or Obadhai seem pretty logical. Obadhai is, the god of nature, and they do stick with nature, and Bokob's the god of magic. Heronius also could be a decent fit because he's kind of similar to the Code of Bushido, which they sort of follow, not exactly, but yeah. Races, you're often going to see them human, just because a lot of the Oriental races didn't get translated, so it's pretty much just humans. Although you could make an argument for really any of the fantasy races. Dwarves and gnomes could be, have that bond with like the earth, so they could very naturally go that route. Elves could probably go a number of different routes. So yeah, let's see their relationship with other classes. They're not going to be they're going to be a little bit high on themselves. They aren't they don't particularly like other classes. So yeah, um, even things like samurai they look down on, which is funny because like samurai's not the most OP of classes, but like for just a role play perspective, they do have a good amount of honor, and they are pretty high in society, interestingly enough. So the role, they're going to play a very similar role to that of a druid, although not exactly that. They're going the role they play actually will vary a lot depending on what element they pick. So yeah, let's see other classes. Yeah, so that's going to be more or less how you would play them. You're going to want to play them as a little bit stuck up, but not stupid, and willing to work with others when makes sense to do so, because thinking that you're better than the rest of your party tends not to go well. And they're not dumb. They know that it's in their best interest to play nice, but at the same time, still have that kind of in the back of your mind. Probably a good idea. Maybe bring out that haughty attitude every so often. You know. Um, yeah, you're probably going to be a bit of a loner because you're not exactly in your homeland. You're a traveler from far away, most likely. So, yeah. All right, let's talk about the mechanics of it. Let's talk about what they get, because I'm really not sure what else to say about the RP side. So, yeah, there's a lot to say on this. So, first off, D6 hit dice, which is kind of low for a divine caster. These ones are much more similar to an arcane caster in a lot of ways. Yeah, so they have a bad base attack bonus. Again, very similar to that of an arcane caster. They have bad fort and reflex save, but a good will save. Again, we're looking very similar to an arcane caster, although slightly higher hit dice. Now they get spell casting. Their spells per day are going to be pretty much right in line with what a sorcerer gets. It might not be exactly the same, but it's very, very similar. Yeah, and they are also going to get some spells known. We'll talk about that here in a second. Let's see, skills. They get 4 plus int. Or sorry, 4. Yeah, 4 plus int. The skill list is all right. So that's not terrible. Let's see, weapon and armor proficiency. They are not proficient with any armor or shields. That's actually something that back in their homeland is seen as improper for Shugenja to be wearing. Although, when they're in combat or when they are in a distant land, they may wear armor. On top of that, they are proficient with all simple weapons and a short sword. Now for spells. Okay, so they are a charisma caster. So that's good. They are a spontaneous caster. So that the way they're going to cast their spells known is basically identical to that of a sorcerer. Weirdly enough, I know they're a divine caster, but they cast basically identical to that of a sorcerer, other than they are casting divine spells, therefore there is not arcane spell failure. But other than that, it's pretty much identical to that of a sorcerer. Now their spells known is weird. They have a lot of weird mixes on that. They got some mixes with cleric influence. They got their own thing going. So let's talk about it. So there's 3 different types of spells known on their list, on their table. The first one is a weird little O, and that O is going to be their order spell. So they get to know the spell for their order. Their order will have 9 spells on it, or I think 10. I think this includes 0 level as well. Yeah, it includes 0 level as well. So it'll have 10 spells, and you'll just know all of those because there's 1 per level. So those ones will just get automatically known when you reach that level. Now you're also going to get spells for your whatchamajigger. You're going to get spells for your favorite element, which you're going to have to pick. The number in the middle is going to be how many spells you know of that element. So it has to be of your element. And finally, that last number can be of any element, except your prohibited element. So yeah. So for instance, let's just pick a random level. Let's say 5th level. So 5th level, you know all your order spells for 0 through 2nd level. And you're going to know for 0 level, you're going to know 4 of your element and 3 from any element, including could be your element. And you're going to know 2 1st level spells from your element and 2 from any element. And then finally, 2nd level, you're going to know 1 from your element and 1 from any element. Yeah. So that's going to be what that is. And then, of course, you're going to know the order spells for all 3. Yeah. Now, just like a sorcerer, you are a level behind that of like a druid or a wizard. So that is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. Yeah, and it's all charisma based. It's spontaneous casting. Pretty simple, straightforward. Let's see. You get element focus at first level. So you get to pick an element, either earth, fire, water, or air. Interestingly enough, the same ones from never mind. But yeah, so you're gonna get those 4 elements, and yeah, so what you're gonna get to do with those is you are going to pick one that you like, and then there's going to be the opposite element you're not going to be able to do. So if you pick fire, you won't be able to cast any water spells. If you pick water, you can't cast fire spells. If you pick earth, you can't cast wind. If you pick wind, you can't cast earth. So it is what it is. So the 4 elements, some basic descriptions on what they do. Oh, and when you pick your order will also likely determine your element. So there's 8 orders. 7 of them determine your element. The other one you can actually pick whatever you want if you pick that one. But so basically, the first orders you have. Let's see. You got the Order of the All-Seeing Eye and the Order of the Spring of Zephyr, which are both in the air element. And the air element, that one, it's subtle, involving time travel, intuition and influence, divination and illusion. So that's just some basic descriptions. It's a decent one. There's some okay stuff on that list. Then there's the Order of the Impenetrable Crucible and the Order of the Perfect Sculpture. Those specialize in earth, which earth involves resistance and resolve, health and growth, and strength of its body. So there's a decent number of like buffing spells in there. Yeah, so some of them are all right. Some of them are not the best. It is what it is. Then there's fire, which just has Order of the Consuming Flame. That's the only order for fire. And let's see. Spells are destructive and blatant, though they also deal with intelligence, inspiration, and creativity. There's also light spells in there. This one contains a lot of blasting spells, mostly fire and lightning damage, which is problematic. Then finally you have, well, not finally, you have the Order of the Forbidding Wasteland and the Order of the Gentle Rain, which specialize in water. Water actually involves transformation, cleansing, healing, and friendship. So it's got a lot of really good healing spells in there, as well as a number of other interesting, useful spells. A lot of divination I've noticed in the water. So yeah, water's an interesting one. Probably the best of the bunch, in all honesty. And fire's one of the worst. So is what it is. Yeah. And then finally, the last order is the Order of the Ineffable Mystery, which will let you pick any of them. And that one focuses on the 5th element of the void. Although there are no actual void spells, and the only reference to that is in the Void Disciple Prestige class, which doesn't really give much reference to the Shugenja at all. Not sure what happened there, but it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, that last order is actually pretty solid, though. This just gets some really good spells. I think the 9th level one is like Disjunction, which is a really solid spell. Anyways, so you get you also get Sense Elements. So basically, it's a spell-like ability that's usable at first level. It's usable 3 times per day, and then eventually it'll go up to I think every 5 levels every 5th level it goes up. So by 20th level, it should go up by another 4, so 7 times per day if I'm doing my math right and doing my understanding of this right. Anyways, so basically what you can do with it is you can spend a round concentrating and picking an element. And then anything that's within 10 feet of you of that element, you will learn about. At least in a very basic sense. Like you'll learn how big it is with just that. And then you can spend time focusing on that thing to try and get a better idea of what it is by making a spellcraft check to get some information. So yeah, you can do that once you figured out what things are with a second full round action. What you can also do is you can spend more full round actions to extend your senses, because this just goes 10 feet initially. but you can extend it another 5 feet per round, per full round action, and you get a maximum of 10 plus 5 per cast per level. So, at 4th level, like they say, you can get up to 30 feet. At 10th level, let's see, 10, that'd be 50, so 60 feet you could get at 10th level. But it would take you 11 full rounds to get that. Not something you can really do in combat, but decent enough out of combat. And it's a pretty good wide range. You can pick any of the 4 elements you want, regardless of which one you specialize in. So that's kind of nice. And you can really just spend a lot of time and focus on each individual thing one by one, and really get a good grasp of your surroundings that way. So water will get you any sort of liquidy thing, at least from the way it described it. I'm assuming air will get you any sort of gas. Earth should get you any sort of solid. Fire, I guess anything that's hot, as well as fire. Yeah, and lightning too. There's a lot of things that count as fire in terms of the classical elements. I believe if you really want to learn about that, look up like alchemy, because that's that's real world alchemy right there. Even though this is Oriental based and like based from Japan, like this is very similar to like alchemy, which was a real science until it was debunked. Anyways, yeah, so that is what they get. How good are they? Well, I'd say they're all right. It's not. They're far from the best casting class in the game, like hardly. Their spell list is unfortunately quite limited. There's not that many spells on it. Some of them are quite good though. Like they get healing spells at their. They get the heal mass as an 8th level spell. That's really good. That's normally a 9th level spell. So that's pretty solid. But the rest of their stuff is I mean, they get disjunction potentially. So that's a good spell. Like there are good options. It's just hard to find exactly what you want, and it's very limiting what you can do. But you can cast whatever spells you know, because they aren't prepared casters, so that's something. But yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one, in all honesty. But it's not bad. Like it certainly beats something like they mentioned the samurai in this. This definitely beats the samurai, no question on that one. Um, but it's definitely got some advantages. The fact that it only uses charisma is kind of an advantage. You don't have to worry about any other mental stats. Because they don't really because they're not really the type to go into the front lines. You don't have to worry about strength too much. You can just focus on, charisma, constitution, and dexterity. Just keep those up to keep yourself alive in casting, and don't worry about any of the other stats too much. You can actually even dump strength, intelligence if you want. So, not a bad option. Wisdom I'd keep decent, just for the will save and all that fun stuff, and maybe keep intelligence half decent. So strength would probably be your dump stat, but it's a pretty all right class all in all. Not the best, not the worst. In terms of casters, it could be better, but it's got its benefits. If you're going to do this, I'd recommend going water, and I'd also recommend going with what is the Order of the Ineffable Mystery. Kind of cool. They get some pretty good stuff. But yeah, that's all I got to say about these guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. Maybe subscribe to the channel for more D&D 3.5 content. And because I do one of these on every single class, race, and prestige class in Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. So ring that notification bell so you never miss out on a video. Anyways, as always, I'm Mitch, and I'll be seeing you